J.K. Rowling has accused the BBC of having a shameful record on gender issues after it put a man, who has dismissed concerns about trans women competing against female athletes, in charge of its sport coverage. The Harry Potter author said it was utterly predictable that Alex Kay-Jelski, the broadcaster's new director of sport, had downplayed fears raised by sportswomen such as Martina and Navratilova about biological men participating in female categories. The journalist, whom the BBC announced it had hired in April, has faced criticism for an inflammatory column he wrote for The Times in 2019 while he was the newspaper's sports editor. He said that Navratilova, seen as one of the greatest tennis players of all time, and Sharron Davies, the Olympic swimmer, were not experts on the matter of trans participation in sport. Both have repeatedly raised fairness and safety concerns over the participation of male-bodied trans athletes in female categories. Mr. Kay-Jelski appeared to compare those who portrayed trans athletes as being threatening to racists who warned, "Don't let black men in the same shops as you or they'll rape your women." He concluded his column by saying how mad and nasty it would be to argue that Jamaican sprinters or Ethiopian marathon runners should only be allowed to compete against each other, as they also had physical advantages based on genetics. Rowling intervened after Navratilova said she had sought to look up Mr. Kay-Jelski after she saw extracts of his controversial column, having never previously heard of him. The former tennis star said she found it pretty pathetic to discover he had blocked her on X, formerly Twitter, meaning she is unable to view his profile or interact with him on the platform. Rowling replied, "I'd say it's unbelievable for a man in his position to say these things at all, let alone block you, and yet, given the shameful state of the BBC's reporting on the women's rights, the gender issue, it's utterly predictable." She later added in a conversation about Mr. Kay-Jelski, "In my experience, media genderists are amazingly fragile when it comes to challenges. They are used to a very comfortable echo chamber." Mr. Kay-Jelski was appointed to replace Barbara Slater, who retired after 14 years as the BBC's director of sport. She was paid an annual salary of between £230,000 and £234. 999, while details of her successor's remuneration have not yet been published. Mr. Kay-Jelski has also previously been a sports editor of the Daily Mail, and was most recently editor-in-chief of The Athletic, a US-based sports website, which is owned by the New York Times and in 2019 expanded into the UK, mainly covering English football. In his 2019 article, he suggested trans people seeking to compete in sports in their chosen gender should be allowed to quietly go about their lives, and told readers they had gone through hell compared to you. He highlighted evidence which found there was little to no difference in performance between transgender women and their female peers. This theory has been widely debunked by the latest evidence. Sport England published guidance in 2021, which stated there are retained differences in strength, stamina and physique between women and men who identify as women, regardless of whether they had suppressed their testosterone levels. The latest evidence has led to a clampdown across a range of sports in relation to trans participation in female categories, due to fears they pose a risk to fairness and safety of women. Mr. Kay-Jelski wrote, "Of course you can say that Putin will turn a bunch of men into female athletes to win medals, but it is a highly unlikely scenario. Minorities have forever been grouped together and been served up to the majority as threatening. Don't let gay men teach your children, or they'll get AIDS. Don't let black men in the same shops as you or they'll rape your women. Don't do a business deal with a Jew or he will steal your money." The BBC declined to comment on Rowling's attack. Sources at the broadcaster said that it would not be appropriate to comment on Mr. Kay-Jelski's work for other outlets, and that he would now focus on his role with the BBC.
How you doing? It's Sanders here, and I made to do a video on an article from the Herald, the Scotland newspaper. and I can tell you, I can tell that this is an attack piece on J.K. Rowling. What a surprise! Another one, and it's called J.K. Rowling launches attack on BBC over new director of sports. Anyway, before getting to the article, if you can please follow me on X and subscribe on YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey as well, if you don't mind, please. I'm going to get to the article now. J.K. Rowling has launched a stinging attack on the BBC's handling of women's rights and issues of gender. Yeah, I don't blame her. She's telling the truth, and she's using common sense. It follows soon-to-be BBC Director of Sport Alex Kay-Jelski blocking tennis icon Martina Navratilova, I think that's what her name is, and Sharron Davies, a 12-time Olympic medalist in swimming for Team Great Britain on social media. Both former athletes have been vocal about their views that transgender women should not be competing alongside people who were born women, with concerns raised that there will no longer be a level playing field. And Kay-Jelski, currently of the Athletic, is quoted as saying neither Navratilova or Davies are experts, as he compared excluding transgender athletes from women's sports to excluding Jamaican or Ethiopian women. No, he pretty much sounds like a stupid dickhead by saying that. The difference is, when he says Jamaican women and Ethiopian women, the thing is they were born women, and transgender athletes are not born women. They are men who wanted to become women. There's the difference. And the thing is, Martina and Sharron Davies were born women. One of them was a lesbian, a champion for women's rights and lesbians' rights, and the fact that the BBC is attacking them, I mean, it's really no surprise. I mean, especially because of how shady the BBC is. I mean, they always have been shady. I mean, look at the way. We just look at the Jimmy Savile thing. That should tell you all you need to know. An extract from his piece in the Times reads, "She," he means Sharron Davies, "and Martina Navratilova are important, influential voices who speak for many women on this topic. They're like most of us. Are not experts, though. And while it's important to hear and respect people's views, I disagree and worry a circus is being created out of something that is A, not a huge problem in sport, and B, further marginalises totally unthreatening people and creates fear around them." Navratilova was angst to discover Kay-Jelski's thoughts on the matter, as she confirmed to a user online that she'd be blocked by him. "This is pretty pathetic," she wrote on X. "Never heard of this man, looked him up here, and found myself blocked. Once again, good to know that men apparently know what women like myself and Sharron know about biology, sports, etc. Just amazing to be this confident now. It was here that Harry Potter author Rowling, whose views on the topic of women's rights and gender ideology have been well documented, took aim at the soon-to-be director of sport at BBC. She responded to Navratilova's post. "I say it's unbelievable for a man in his position to say these things at all, let alone block you, and yet given the shameful state of the BBC's reporting on women's rights gender issue, it's utterly predictable." It is predictable. This is how the BBC is. Because I remember when the BBC sent a reporter to talk to Elon Musk. This was like a few years ago, and it was about like hate speech on Twitter, and he said that he got like loads of it in his feed. And the thing is, Elon Musk was straight asking him, okay, name something of hate speech that you had, because since you had loads of it, you must have at least remembered something that you considered it hate speech. And the thing is, he was stumbling over his words, and Elon Musk called him out as a liar. A liar. This is what I'm saying. This is what the BBC. This is what the BBC are. They're not for women's rights. They're just pushing a narrative, and they're forcing it onto people, just like our mainstream media is, and it does, and it's really sad how they're treating Martina Navratilova. I'm sorry for butchering her last name, and Sharron Davies. It's a shame how they're treating them. To be honest, one's an Olympic medalist, and the other is a tennis icon, and obviously Martina is like a lesbian icon in the community. Who, well, she should still be a lesbian icon in the LGBTQ community. But the thing is, I mean, and yet this guy is saying that they're not experts. They're more of an expert on women's rights than you will ever be in your life. Just straight pathetic of the BBC, to be honest. And you know what? To be honest, I'm really glad I don't pay TV license. It's just a waste of money. The TV license is. The more people don't pay and don't watch it, the better it will be. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe on this video. And if you could follow me on X and subscribe on YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey as well, if you don't mind, please. And let me know in the comments on what you on about this article and about the BBC's soon to be new director of sport, and what about what he said about these two women. Yeah, let me know what you think, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.